Hello.
Good
Hey,
to see you.
hey, Janis. How are you?
I am very well, thank you.
Great to see you. And by the way, thank you for your patience to all the people who are connected now, because we had some technical issues and then we just solved in 3 minutes. So another learning for today. Test twice the platform.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the technical glitches, they never go away. But damn, it's so advanced that it's crazy like how you can like record your faces from phone and here you can hear things and here you speak and it's all synced and recorded and after recording you get this and that and various clips. It's just insane. The tech is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. And this is part of the fun stuff, no? So we're always learning, always doing things, and we never know how we're going to experiment one day. So we are not looking actively, by the way, into the chat, at least not during the conversation. But let's just first of all say hi to everyone who's connected and thank you for your time, for investing half an hour, between half an hour and 1 hour of your most precious resources to listen to me and Janis. And I'm definitely very excited to do this. This is one of the most highest moment of the day. So thank you, Janis, first of all, for being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Roberto. You're the best. You're the best. By
And
the way, all the comments will go to the regular event chat.
yes, exactly.
Oh, it's cool.
I can see one person who say hi from Ukraine. Hi, Henry. Hi, Glenn.
Awesome.
Hi, Hanane. So it looks like
Awesome.
you can see it. I don't know if it's live. Perhaps we have to refresh from time to time, but maybe in the middle, we can also improvise a little bit, of course, and feel free to drop any question that you want to hear from me or from Janice, from both,
Yeah.
and we can
I think yeah. I think if we don't answer during the conversation, we can check out afterwards. You know. So
absolutely,
it's that's
absolutely.
awesome.
So
Cool.
first of all, I would like you first for the people who don't know you, Janice, I will just 1 minute for introduction because you are one of the most inspiring people that I know uh, here on the internet and real life because
Oh,
I
thank
had the
you.
pleasure to know you in real life. And what really struck me also when I was setting up this event and I say, oh, what I can put in the preview, and then I saw your intro. And he said, and we read it literally because it's amazing. Your description says, I procrastinate, I doubt myself and struggle with perfectionism. Yet I do what I love for a living, and I believe you can too. So
Yeah,
this is
I was pretty happy when I came up with that line. I was like, oh yeah, this is good. But it's honestly it represents me a lot because if you would look to my like day to day life or just observed my history during the last whatever 10, 20 years, I'm a pretty lazy person. I always try to like figure out like the easy way, and I'm like, yeah, this is hard or boring. You know, I don't really want to do this, and I think when I was riding downhill mountain bikes like back in the days for like pretty seriously for around 10 years, I was like decent at it. And I think what I learned from that experience back then was that you can be pretty good without kind of working hard. It wasn't like I was working hard, but I can't recall like a single day from those downhill mountain biking days which felt like a struggle or something like that. You know,
mm,
everything was extremely fun. I was always just jumping and going in trains and riding to mountains with friends, and it was just such a thrill. And I think what I took from that experience kind of into my regular career was that, you know, work shouldn't be hard. Work shouldn't be like this struggle all the time. Of course, you know, even if you marry the most amazing person, you know, probably 10% of the time you will be like, you know, angry with it or whatever. And then there will be some hiccups in the relationships or whatever. I think it's the same with the careers that you love. But yeah, like not to go too much into details, like for 10 years, I just worked in the regular corporate world. There were few triggers that kind of triggered me and created this, not belief, but I just understood that online business is a thing, like some 7, 8, 9 years ago, which like sparked this desire. Oh my God, this could be the path where I can actually like do fun stuff and do interesting things and make a living doing it. So basically, then for 4 or 5 years, I did absolutely all the wrong things, failed at many things, but I had a blast. I started like YouTube channels, blogs, this and that, like all the like even like tried to do a SaaS product with one developer. Nothing worked. I built no audience, had no revenue, nothing. And then like 3 years ago, I through various different prompts, I discovered this visual content creation, which just came easy to me. I felt like most of the work, was brainstorming, walking
Mm.
around, and I sit at my laptop, create this simple art. I like to consume that type of content. I started to create that type of content, and it has led me, to where we are today. So yeah, for the past 3 years, I really feel I'm living my dream life. It's super awesome. I draw these pictures for a living. It's great.
Wow. And it's so interesting because it looks like you said, I love to consume this and I started to do this. So it's already, I hear it's something that you already loved and you tried. Nonetheless, I can do that and I will see what happens. What did you learn from this, from
Well,
starting something?
yeah, I think when I run all those failed experiments, I was in the early days, I consumed a lot of self-help and listened to a lot of like Tim Ferriss's podcast and listened to like entrepreneurial stories, etc. And what I came to realize early on, before I built pretty much anything, is that there's a lot of people who achieve great things, but they are quite unfulfilled in their. I hate my 9 to 5, and I just build another prison for myself, which is not a 9 to 5, which is your own business. So what I quite intentionally did was like, okay, I have this comfortable life with 9 to 5. I can wake up a bit before my work, work a bit in the evening or whatever. I can carve out a few hours, every day to pursue this creative work. Even if it takes longer, let me try to pursue something I genuinely love and enjoy instead of just pursuing the new hot thing that
Mm,
maybe will take off, but I will just hate afterwards. So this kind of love for the work and working with this, trying to work always with my intrinsic motivation was something I kind of aspired to do. So I think there's a bit of that what I learned, which
mm,
I definitely don't regret. And I think there's different paths. I don't think there's anything wrong with pursuing, the next hot thing, and maybe it goes big, but whatever, maybe it makes you some money, creates the freedom, and then you can pursue whatever you like, So there's various different ways, but this was at least my path.
mm. This is super interesting. And also, as you said, probably there is no way for everyone, which is the same. And what I hear from you is that you didn't want your side uh, experiments to become another prison. So also by doing this completely separated and giving your time, you ensure that you do not put pressure on that and it doesn't have to work. Imagine that uh, you leave your job and you say, this has to work because if it doesn't work, I have to find something else. So this kind of pressure, I think is probably something that, at least to me, I resonate a lot with what you said. I would never think about just doing these things that we do, at least not in the short term. And also because for me, for example, the combination of working and doing communication, doing visual, and doing other things has some cost benefit because what I see, for example, in my day to day is something source of inspiration for things that I share, and vice versa. I see something beautiful, and then I say, "Oh, why don't we try this? Why don't we use this?" So there is also some combination from the inside in the outside, and
Yeah.
of course, this would be an ideal to combine all the things that you love, and then also would make what we do unique because no one has exactly the same combination that you have or that I have. And so this also frees us from the idea of, oh, I have to be original. We are already original doing what we do because no one else has our own perspective. And now that I said that, it reminds me of one thing that you always, always, always encourage everyone on your course, which by the way, I took it and I'm super grateful that I did. It was like an experiment. It was one of the super most satisfying things that I did in my life.
Yeah.
And you always encourage people to try things and to take it easy and experiment and iterate. And I think in this sense you are very generous and very supportive. How do you see this
I th-
community part in creation?
well, I think it comes a bit, maybe because I do feel that I struggle with perfectionism quite a bit. Maybe currently a bit less because I have kind of, find my way with it and I understand and I try to live my own advice, that
Yeah,
especially when it comes like to posting on social media, you know, you can publish. If it flops, it flops. If it works, and like comment 3 months later, iterate on your image, on your idea or whatever, everybody has forgotten about it, post
yeah,
it again. Of course, like if you are working on like on a book or on something, more significant, which will like kind of live after it's done, of course, let your perfectionism to take over a bit more, but still, you have some deadlines and stuff, do your best
yeah,
until the X amount of time and give you more time to, to get some feedback from people, etc., etc. But I think people put too much perfectionism, let the perfectionism too much shine, on this just general social media posting type of stuff. So yeah, I guess from there I just have empathy because I went through that, I struggled through that, and I know what didn't work and kind of what works. So there's always need to find this balance. That's why we have this community, and that's why people can share like there, get some feedback, get some encouragement, and just try to jog along. But yeah, you're a really good story. I really do like how you joined the course, because you have absolutely no intention to make these drawings, but it just came to be that you just supported my work through NFTs back in the days, and then I just gave you
yeah,
access, and it was funny. That was funny.
yeah,
And
exactly.
you're a really good, I think you're a really good example of, I think, why I kind of want to encourage, everybody to pursue this curiosity, creativity aspect, plus leveraging the internet, because essentially you have full-time job, which you like, you run a family, you have many things going on, but you still like over course of what it's been like 2.5 years or so, you've built
Yeah,
massive audience, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and it's just like it strengthens your CV so much, even if you want to pursue like 9 to 5 career for the rest of your life. This is such a, like, just you can't compare it to somebody who will send, a regular CV with somebody, oh my god, okay, on LinkedIn, you are this whatever premium type of subscriber now, you have these
of voice.
management
Oh yeah,
leadership, yeah, but that works, if somebody looks at you, okay, this guy seems to be like a big deal in leadership and stuff
yeah,
like that. And and how did you got there? You just got there by being curious, which you are. You
mm,
read books, blogs, you have like the most badass system that I've ever seen anybody have. And you create these visuals, and you kind of inspire your kids to draw and stuff, and you have just built this audience, this massive leverage, just by basically doing things that are fun for you. Like have it been like a struggle or hard or not interesting? I believe it's
mm.
the opposite, right?
Absolutely. And this is a fun part, is that everything more and more, the beauty of doing these things is that I see the connections. And what I you said, you mentioned the system, and one more thing is that everyone has his own or her system. There is no perfect system, and that my idea is that the system has to be something that you enjoy doing. If it feels like, oh no, I have to put all this stuff in this Notion file, this is a nightmare. So I also have fun putting all the things, all the ideas. And this is something that I saw. You mentioned 2 years. It's actually it's a little bit more. And in 2 years, how many things you can uh, accumulate, how many ideas. And then it's beautiful because some of this idea comes out by connection because you read it many times. So it's also a way to strengthen my memory, to make connection to things. When someone mentions something, oh, I did this illustration, and then recombine, and it looks like it's somehow exponential, because in the beginning you have 10 illustration, then you have 100, then you have 700, and you can combine everything with everything because you can take
Yeah.
one from this, one from there. And this is also part of the encouragement that you said about just do things, because perhaps the first things are not so good, maybe, but maybe some of the things you do in the beginning, you will take it again, as you said, and iterate and do something better. And then this is when the joy comes out, because you see that, wow, all the work that I put, all the fun that I had, you see some result, not in terms of, I have to count and have had this and this and this metric, but when you see that you take all that you did and it's somehow stayed in your memory, and you say, wow, I'm making some new connection, not only in terms of people, which is also one of the amazing things. You get to know people who, like you, share interests, share journeys, and we are all unique. We have one commonality, for example, between us, which is visual illustration and personal development. Then we have each, you are a bike rider,
Yeah, yeah.
I love tech, and everyone has these things. And this is
Yeah,
also the
there's
beauty.
yeah. It definitely is the beauty. What I yeah, sorry, before I forget what I wanted to say, I think it's very encouraging for people, I think, to hear as well, is if somebody kind of wants to pursue whatever type of just try to listen to their curiosity and creativity a bit
Yeah,
more. I think it's very encouraging to hear that my notes, for example, are absolute mess. Your notes is extremely structured or whatever. There is so much different ways in terms of process and
yeah,
in terms of like format as well. You might not like visuals, you might like tweets, maybe you like comedy and you want to create like educate people or take notes through funny TikTok videos, whatever it might be. There are so many different topics, there's so many different formats, and there's so many different like processes and ways how you get there. So yeah, just I'm sure like most people definitely can find like kind of their own weird way how they can make this work.
exactly. And this also reminds me of the idea that I sometimes see, oh, everything has already been invented, everything has already been said. Yes and no, of course, because for example, there are some idea, like a lot of Stoic idea, for example, that comes into our social media, and I also love them. But at the same time, the context is not the same. We are not the same. It's been filtered to many years, and then you have your own interpretation. So even if it looks like you're saying the same, oh, this is already been said. Maybe yes, but maybe it's your own unique perspective that you use one idea plus your way to see that plus your experience, and then you express it in a way that,
Yeah.
that
It reminds me of like, I've heard whatever, let's say random advice, from 10 different people. And
yeah,
one of those people, let's say, could be my wife, and then I listen to some podcast and I'm like, oh, this is good. And then I share to my wife and she's like, I said that to you. And it's like, and that's kind of the idea, that you need to hear these ideas from the right people that, that just kind of will do when the message will land for you. I think there was a good quote. I don't know who said or whatever, but there was like, everything has been said, but as nobody listened, everything needs to be said again, or something like that. I don't know the quote, but somebody said it. It's a good line. So yeah, for sure, like our unique perspectives, it's and it's about the like the journeys as well. Let's say there is few things I could learn from Elon Musk, but he's just so far ahead that it's hard just to attach. So it's always nice to like learn from people who are like few steps ahead, and it's just there is this more understanding, because I don't know, person who might be like 10 years ahead of you, he's so detached how it felt like 10 years ago that it just doesn't click. So I think sometimes it's nice that even if you feel like, oh, I'm such a whatever, insignificant thing here online, but you can definitely like, this
yeah,
compounds, somebody inspired me, I inspired somebody else, somebody else inspired somebody else, and just it's like a never ending growing tree, which is amazing.
absolutely. And this reminds me also of the idea of looking for people who inspires us, that we can always find someone to learn from, or just to have ideas, and then the combination of all of these ideas, we take it in and we give you our unique view. And when you say that, you talk about somehow projecting into the future, I'm curious now to hear what's the thing that you are more excited about now for the next few months or current project, let's
Yeah,
say.
I guess the big project is the book I'm currently working on. That's a big deal. It's It's exciting, overwhelming at the same time. Yeah, it kind of came very very interestingly because I always had this aspiration to write books, create books at some point, and I wanted to make them in a bit different format. I think not maybe exactly like this, but a good example is like Still Like an Artist from Austin Kleon. It's like a good it's a easy read, because I'm a super lazy reader, and when I look, I don't know, at something else which is super dense text, I get overwhelmed. But if I see, okay, there's like not much, I can read it, it feels digestible to me. So I always felt this that visuals can really help to bring this physical book format to into hands of more people, especially now, like kids and young people with all the social media, like kind of the attention
Mm.
spans are so not, I don't want to say they are short, but people are, I think, are kind of going away from books and more into videos. So I think it's like an interesting way to bring uh to create these not coffee table type of books, but just basically so they are easy to digest. Yeah, so that's an exciting project.
Mm.
Didn't know will I self-publish or not, but managed to sign a contract with Harriman House from UK, which is a big deal publisher, which was pretty awesome. I worked with them like when I was working on the learning game for Anna. She created like the book for what's wrong with the education system and stuff, and I really enjoyed working with them. So yeah, there's deadlines coming. I need to finish the cover and title for until end of February. The manuscript needs to be done till mid-March. So there's a lot of writing going on. I booked to meet few people in Barcelona for a few days, and I thought I will fly there, but I decided to book a train, which is like 5 hours, 5.5 hours one direction. So I'm just forced to sit and write. So
No
those will
connection,
be my
nothing.
yeah, those will be my focused hours because I do struggle with writing a lot, and it doesn't come easy for me, as I said, because I don't read the books. I always like listen to the books, and I never read, I never really write, so it comes really hard for me.
Mm.
But I use this opportunity to sign a book deal, kind of, so it's almost like a forcing function to get my shit together and learn this thing, because I do want to learn it. This is a bit of a
Mm.
like a harder journey, but I do start to enjoy it. The more I write, even if I hated it, I start to love it. It's actually pretty
Ah.
fun. But yeah, it's an exciting project. So I hope it will go on well. But yeah, it will be just in bookstores next year, April or whatever. So it's still a while.
Wow. And it looks like you took something that you already have from one of your skills, which is all the visual illustration, and from there, without leaving that behind, you're adding one more thing, which is writing. So you keep adding and adding to your skills, and this also looks like gives energy.
Yeah, definitely. It's writing. I think it's such a fundamental skill. I think it's definitely more important than visuals. But I think like it's a good reminder that if you even suck at writing and you feel like you struggle with it, that there are other paths to kind of share ideas. Because I shared it with visuals, you shared it with visuals. We have big audiences, and I managed to sign the book deal without writing a single blog post that they were able to view. So it's kind of interesting that you just need to get your foot in the door, and kind of, if you can prove that you can get people to pay attention to your work, yeah, good
Mm.
opportunities can come your way.
Oh, and now that you mention attention and the audiences, I would very be curious to hear what do you think are the current opportunities on one side and challenges in this platform, of course, which is LinkedIn, but in general in social media and communication. How do you see that?
I don't know. What one thing which I come back to all the time is, again, like, find what you're interested in, find what you love, and just keep shipping, because like the algorithms change all
Yeah.
the time. There was super exponential period for me on Instagram, then everything like plummeted and everything was super
Mhm.
slow. Same for Twitter, now X. There was spikes, there was lows, then again where there were spikes. Like, same for LinkedIn. It's never linear. So just figure out what you want to share it. Of course, try to get some feedback over time. Okay, I feel this really whatever, flopped, or people were not interested because of this or that. Try to improve it next time. But I'm definitely not an algorithm person. I don't know what works, how it works. I try to just create in a way how I like to see. Of course, here and there I will see some, I think there was a period where you and PG Milani shared a lot of carousels on LinkedIn, and I felt like they really went viral. So I was like, okay, let me give this a try as well. So I kind of accumulated like 10 visuals to do whatever, and share those. Of course, you look at some sort of signals, what could work, what couldn't work. And I think another thing, which of course is like the big topic, AI, which is just, in my opinion, a nice reminder to be authentic. And that's something I want to embrace a bit more. I would like to share a bit more my face and kind of my ideas in writing, and as well
Yes.
maybe in video or whatever, to just so people can feel that, okay, there is Janis, there is a real person behind these visuals. It's not just some random AI engine who is pumping these out, because I'm sure in a few years it could be the case that like plain average type of visuals AI will be able to create, same as now people do with like some model type of, these video where like
Yeah.
these supermodels, which are AI, grow these
Yeah,
grow
thank
these
you.
grow the,
Yeah, absolutely.
so I think that's a nice, but it definitely shouldn't be discouraging. I think it should be more encouraging to actually, because people will look for decent stuff. And I don't know, I use AI a lot in my like research and to like just get gears going or get different perspectives. But in general, it's extremely average. It's just it's the average of all the shit and all the amazing stuff, and you get something average. And I think that's what really like all these chat GPTs are. They are very useful in some
Yeah.
particular ways, but when it comes to creativity, it's always like, I don't know, I try to get its help on like titles, on figuring out the book title, and it's not
Mm.
really there. Still, the best ideas come from either myself or somebody who I have asked feedback, and they have like gave some interesting perspectives.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ideas are average, and it's easy to create fluff. So be on point, be authentic, and just do what you love. Be curious about what you love, and create in a way that you kind of find interesting and intrinsically motivating, and
Yeah.
just see where it goes. It's not much to overthink.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also reminds me of something that you always said. And this is why, by the way, one of my principles also for sharing, which is uh, sharing things that you would love to see first, and then being respectful of the time of the people. And I think that, for example, sometimes I think we discussed it, and we thought I'm super fan of automation and AI. I try to automate everything, but I try to automate everything on the inside, and I would never automate a conversation. So this would be like, first of all, disrespectful. Second, it's not authentic. And third, what's the point of sharing these things if you're not there to interact, to have a conversation and to learn? So, and this probably is one of the biggest challenge in general, because I tend to see more and more stuff that looks like generated by AI, and it's somehow okay.
We'll see, but I do have a feeling that, at least I feel in the generation, there's like, let's say my generation, I feel that we skip ads. We see ads, we automatically ignore them, we just don't see them. It's like an ad, though. Like my mom maybe could be, oh my god, there's this interesting thing, I should
I
check it out,
didn't see that.
and I'm like, that's ad, that's bullshit, just skip it, just go on. And I believe people will get to kind of get used to the AI bullshit, fluffy type of responses, and oh, this is full of crap, AI bullshit, and they will just kind of ignore. So I don't know, just be a decent human online, and that will be much better. And I really liked what you said: automation on the inside, but not the outside. AI is like amazing assistant. I
Absolutely.
just feed it Excel and, hey, what's the amount of hours, whatever, and just like gives you everything in a nice sentence and it's super good. But yeah. And about creating what I would like to see, yeah, that's I think it's a decent principle if you really wanna focus on kind of creating a tribe and attract people that you find like similar with, like kind of that you vibe with, because I'm sure there are plenty of people who are kind of similar to me in similar interests, etc. And just if you always try to tailor your content for your audience, you can really lose yourself. I probably have heard in some interviews quite a lot that, especially like it's for YouTubers, that they are so obsessed about the algorithm and the likes and everything, that they just tailor everything to get those numbers up. And I do believe there is something to say about that. You can kind of lose yourself. So yeah.
Yes. And now, actually, now that you say that, Janis, maybe I'll share one anecdote, which is, by the way, very interesting learning. You mentioned of the carousels, and I did, perhaps you saw it few months ago, uh, uh, perhaps the beginning of the year. I did some experiment with a format, which was not my usual format. It was like putting an idea, then I put another image, and then an idea, like translating the content of my summary into slides, into a PDF, and then it was like, swiping, and was different format.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it a lot. I saw that it was nice, and I also wanted to experiment and see how it worked. And I did one. I posted, it worked really well in terms of reach and visibility. But then I thought, doesn't feel like stuff I would like to do. And then I asked one person whose name is Tim, which, by the way, is my accountability partner here sometimes. And I said, I'm not sure about this. How does it look to you? And he says, very honestly, I don't like the vibe. It's not you. It doesn't feel anymore like the rest of the stuff. And I thought about it and said, oh, Tim, you're right. I will stop doing this. Even if it worked, I will stop doing this because I don't feel it's like what I would like to see. And then I changed, and I only did the carousel format for monothematic, for example, 10 visual on communication, 10 visual on conflict. And this stuff I like because I try to tell a story through the visual. So it's like 10 from one idea to the other. And this is one of the examples of this adaptation, and see how it feels what you put, because it have to be okay with you, not with what the algorithm says.
Yeah. Of course, there is a balance, and it is important to listen to your balance is the key. But yeah, definitely I think going down that path where you start to feel you're creating inauthentic and something you just do for the likes and etc. I think it's not the best place to be. Yeah.
Exactly. Want to check the chat? If we have,
let's do check the chat. Sounds exciting. If somebody have asked something,
we could
there,
go on for hours, as you know.
No, it's super fun to chat with you. It was so nice that you visited me this year as well. It was so cool to chat with you.
Okay, let's see. Hi Risto. Hi Bogdan. Bruno.
Janis, you should create a step-by-step how to write and publish a book after you're done. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of lessons learned. Anastasia. Yeah, I probably will share some stuff afterwards.
Oh, let me just add one thing to Sachin, which is a really great question, from content consumption to filtering ideas. And this is something that you already mentioned, that you consume things in different way. I remember one of your newsletter, you had this brilliant visual with a line with consuming mindlessly and then consuming intentionally. And this is a brilliant idea, because I also believe that when you put your mind on something, when you want to get some idea, for example, when you start looking for brown cars, you see brown cars everywhere. And there is another metaphor which I love, which is when we both have kids. When we are expecting our kids, we will probably work. Pregnant woman everywhere. And what's happened? Now everyone is waiting for a kid. No, it's you that you're more in tune with these things. So
that's so good.
What I would say is that, first of all, the consumption, of course, you have to consume things that you like and that you are aligned with what your values and your objectives are. At the same time, the way you consume, if you just start to take notes and to write or to put ideas, then the things become more and more natural. And then all of a sudden, maybe you have your notes, each one, again, has its own way. You can use Apple Notes, you can use Notion, you can do whatever, a paper and pen. And then from one moment to the other, you're thinking of something and an idea pops up, and then you connect this with what you read. So the intentional consumption probably is one of the biggest things that I also learned from you, because one of the chapters of the course was that take notes everywhere with your phone, always go with something, because inspiration or the idea comes and then poof, it goes away.
Yeah, it's very true, and I see Sachin ask the question. Take us through your process from content
Yeah.
consumption to filtering ideas for visual creation. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's pretty big on X. Shares cool infographics. I'm probably on LinkedIn as well. Not sure. I'm not sure if I
Mm.
follow him. But through the process of content consumption to filtering ideas for visual creation. Well, yeah, the first step is, be just ultra aware and just take notes constantly. I think one misconception that a lot of people do, let's say they listen to a podcast and let's say, Tim Ferriss says about, there is this thing 80-20 principle. And, oh, okay, 80-20 principle, and like 80-20 principle, blah, blah, blah. And you write down the definition of that principle. But I think what a lot of people miss is they miss out on capturing just thoughts, stories from their past. Maybe to listen to the same podcast and it reminds you about whatever, how your kid did that and how you were
Mm.
super frustrated because maybe you were not be able to produce work that day and how dumb it is or whatever. Wrote those things down, because like, I don't know if you follow my work and if you have followed my work from the like early days, I really started a lot with creative struggles, and I mostly shared. There was like zero advice in them. There was like, this is how we procrastinate, like,
Mm.
and everybody's like, I'm the same, lol, lol. I think super funny, and they're just like a big club of procrastinators and self-doubters, So all of those thoughts and that type of stuff, I think it's super important to capture. If you do like visuals, it's important to capture like
Yeah.
metaphors, idea. You can just look at the glass and it's like, okay, it's half full, half empty. All that stuff. You can just be super self-aware. Go into kitchen and look at your blender and think about, okay, I can show ideas in blender, what would happen there, all these things which move and do that type of stuff, I think is very helpful. One thing which I recently discovered, which actually came from writing the book, because I write my book, I have my planned chapters, etc., etc., so there's a lot of intention what I want to
Yeah.
create.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some sort of structure, and I was posting about it on LinkedIn as well, where I basically went on a walk
Mm.
and I just speaked some ideas which came to mind when I looked at those chapters. But one interesting twist I did this time, I was on the side. I started listening to the recently it came out, the Tim Ferriss with Noah Kagan podcast, because Noah Kagan releases this new book, which is $1 Million Weekend or something. And in that conversation, they talked a lot about like business and starting, like a similar vibe that kind of is my book about. And I just listened to that conversation while I'm walking. And like in 5 minutes, they discuss about something and it reminds me about whatever this thing. And I just add to my notes. And it was
Mm.
really like, I had these prompts from my chapters, and then I have this inspiration from the podcast, plus I'm just, walking and thinking and some ideas comes up.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you need to look for ideas. It's just kind of a switch you put, if you start to take these notes, and I don't know, you will get used to it. And now what I have like, I think 3,000 or 4,000 notes in my Bear Notes app, which is the app I use. And like a wonderful process how I usually can create a lot of visual ideas. I just sit down in my couch. I take my iPad with the Apple Pencil, and I scroll those notes, and I just, okay, I read the text, whatever this random note is that I have taken. I click on it. I sketch on it. I do have like a concept which I share in the course as well, where you basically go through a brainstorming session, and there's various different prompts, because you can capture a note, let's say, of perfectionism is hard, is whatever, struggling or overwhelming or something, and then you can start to add what I can add more there, what thought elements I could put there, how it feels,
Mm.
what do I do when that happens, and all those things kind of can just compound, and when you generate these different elements, you can end up in a wonderful place later down the line. Okay, it was a long, all over the place answer, but that's more or less my process. It's not very strict or straightforward. It is all over all over the
I
place.
I like it, and I like it a lot that what you say, that it's like building your backlog and just dumping everything, and then you take it back, and when something stands out, you iterate and build on that. And this is also something that resonates a lot with me because, for example, I try always to have tons and tons of things more to do than actually I have to do. I want to do. And this is the difference. Because when you have, imagine 10 or 100 ideas that you would love to visualize, then you pick the one that you have most fun doing. They say, oh, I
Yep.
want to do this. I want to do that. And it's not like I have to do it because whatever. No, you set your backlog and then you see these are the best idea now. And this cannot be the best in 1 month. In 1 month, maybe you take again your backlog and you say, oh, today I love this. And you take it.
Yeah.
And one more thing that connects with what you said, and I would definitely recommend, is to reread and re-listen to the things you liked. Because the first time you read or listen to a book, something pops out. And then the second, you are changed because you're not the same person anymore. Perhaps you put something into practice, perhaps not. You have different experience. And when you listen to it again, something different ticks. And for example, now I started a book which is called, and maybe you also read it, which is called The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read. And you wish to, and your son also will thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
I've
this is
heard
the
that book.
fourth time that I hear it. And this morning, just started this morning when I was doing my gym, in half an hour, I had a note and paper out on the side, and I write down 7 ideas for visuals. And I, wow, where did it come from?
Yeah,
And this looks like fun. I really look forward to the next plane trip to do this.
yeah, it's everywhere. I think one exception which I would distinguish here is that, and I see Alexander is asking a question. Love your inspirational graphics, Janis. How do you monetize? How I monetize is basically when I was let's say half a year into my journey, few people started to ask how I do this. So I created a course, which is my primarily revenue driver for the past 2.5 years or 2 years, I would say. And then I do freelance every now and then, not too often. So that's another alternative. And then on that, like there's some newsletter sponsors sometimes a bit, and then some workshops I do here and there, but not much of that currently. That's the current stage. And what I wanted to say is that about returning to ideas is when I do freelance, there you don't have this freedom as we do, where we can like create everything we want and just scroll through the notes and pick everything that feels amazing. There you have this constraint. Hey, I must come up with something here. I have this particular thing. And what I would say, it's definitely harder. It takes more time. You sometimes walk for hours in your whatever apartment or outside and just try to figure stuff out. But often this forcing function to push yourself a bit further, you often come with very clever and interesting ideas. So sometimes it's nice to go deep if it's like important to you. If it's important to you, or if you are doing freelance, you can come up with a lot of interesting concepts as well. It's not always like the first thing that comes like this.
Yeah, I love it. And it also connects to me with choosing the project you are passionate about, because you have to want to go deep in something that's meaningful also to you. For example, I remember the book you did about parenting. All the illustrations are amazing. And I'm sure you had a lot of fun doing all of them. Maybe, perhaps, I remember perhaps you said that you struggled with some. At the same time, it looks like so fun for how you and yours talk about this, and then but the book you did, and this is I saw it probably was this summer. You have the physical copy, and it was like, wow, this is a book. I'm so excited about that. And these are the kind of project that also it's let's say it's an obligation because you have to do it. You have to do all the chapters at the same time. It's 100% aligned with what you want to go deep into. So it's satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. You say yes beforehand, but actually with Anna, it was a bit different. There wasn't this constraint of illustrating every chapter. We had the perfect deal, and the deal was like, let me just go through the book and illustrate wherever I feel I can add something that would like amplify the message or just bring like a new fresh perspective. We didn't have this. It was the perfect project. I really really enjoyed it.
Sounds like a partnership. I'm doing this. I'm doing all my best, and I don't have 10 or if I come out with 10, 20 or 30, whatever, I will
Yeah,
do it because it's
exactly.
fun
Because
and
like
it's me.
maybe two of those are great, and then you have eight. No, it was like,
Yeah.
that's and I think that's another, if somebody's like doing freelance or whatever, it's always nice to do these little trial runs.
Yeah.
Let's do 2-3 visuals and see, like, no hard feelings, no nothing. Let's just see if we vibe and we can work together, and like our like aspirations are on like a similar level, that we both kind of look forward to see a similar type of like visual or
Mm.
whatever, because sometimes it's just not meant to be, and it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and actually, this sounds like a great advice, not only for doing visuals, but for any project. Before committing, to try to see how it's working with another person. It's like it's like dating. You don't go to mm, wedding the first day. You see, okay, we can work together. Okay, we like it, we enjoy it. Let's try it. Let's go one more step, and again and again. And it's more seeing like a long time relationship. I love it. Oh, I see one more question from Wolfgang, which perhaps we can answer, which is, well, great question. Also, what do you have? Sorry, I lost the text here. If you were to start over, would you build something like a dictionary of metaphors or only work on expressing one idea at a time? Hmm. What I would say, I have a dictionary, and I didn't do it in the beginning. It's something that it came out after 2 years. And I was thinking that, for example, there are ways to express ideas. One classic idea is the contrast between something which is good and bad. So, for example, or you take a photo of a scary ghost, and then you have the little cute ghost, or you have a monster or a devil, and then you have a devil which is smiling. You have a lot of ways to express, for example, this kind of idea, which is the contrast between two things. Another general idea would be, for example, and you mentioned with the blender, uh, components or parts of a thing that are necessary for an outcome. And you have, for example, you can use a pizza, you can use the blender with the fruit, you can use a puzzle with pieces. All these metaphors are the same type of concept, which you take, for example, an idea, have 5 pieces, and you say, oh, what can I do? And I sometimes do that. And I check my old library and I say, in which way I visualize the 5 components. And then I
Hmm.
pick one and perhaps I iterate or not, or perhaps I just use it again with different words, changing some color, because when you have 500 or 700, you can also iterate on those. And this is also something which is fun because it helps you to fix this in your mind. It's not like I do it and I throw it. And this is also super interesting because sometimes I have new ideas when I look to this dictionary and I say, oh, there's another way to do this.
Yeah,
And you add it.
for
What's your
sure.
way to think about this, Janis?
I think for the Bogdan question, if you were to start over, would you build something like a dictionary of metaphors or only work on expressing one idea at a time? I think what I would definitely not recommend doing is to build, before you create anything, build some sort of dictionary of assets or something like that, because that's just a procrastination. Of course, it's helpful to have assets all over the place, and that can be part of your taking notes. You just, oh, this could be interesting, this could be that. That's all notes, and that is all absolutely fine. But you just, I think, I would say usually, idea is the king, and you can have like an awesome metaphor, but you're not maybe sure what to put it in there. Of course, sometimes you can, you can just put whatever random idea there in, even if it's like a good metaphor. But yeah, I would definitely not build like a dictionary or on anything like that. I would just try to gather as many ideas as possible, but commit to creating like every day, or whatever, I don't know your situation, maybe every third day or something, create at least something. And the
Mm-hmm.
more you will build, the more just creativity will kind of flow. And as Roberto are saying, and of course we have created hundreds of visuals, we have this massive library where we can just look and be inspired and mix and match different things. You just need to be aware that will happen more the more you will create. But I wouldn't say that building some sort of library or something will be super helpful. And I think what you can do, if you start out, I really like this quote from David Perel, which is imitate, then innovate. And if you're really
Oh, yeah.
starting out, I know how you can look at these visuals and feel like, oh my God, how do you even come up with this stuff? I'm sure some people can feel that. And I think, which is absolutely fine, pick something, whatever, pick one of Roberto's visuals, pick one of my visuals, and try to just iterate on it, a
Yeah.
bit. Like take the template, take the idea, but put maybe a different idea there, adjust some colors, create a different frame, do it in a super sketchy style, do it with a pen and paper and take a picture with your iPhone or whatever, that brings this new kind of vibe to it. And that's a good way how to start. And the more you kind of create, the more you will just come up with your own ideas. And if you feel like sleazy or slimy about like posting them because it feels too similar, keep it to yourself. It's something that I think Sam Parr, who is big on copywriting, built the Hustle massive newsletter, master at copywriting. I think one idea which he often shares about how to improve in copywriting and what he actually does still to this day is when he needs to write like a awesome sales copy or something like that, he will take a famous or super popular sales letter or whatever, and he will rewrite that letter with hand. And it's copy paste, but it just gets kind of his gears going, and then he's in a better state of mind to create his own landing page. So I think you can apply the same idea to the visuals just by kind of trying to redrawing some of whatever other people's work and then just try to innovate. But definitely, of course, don't create copy paste and then publish. That's not cool. It's not really nice, quote your inspirations or whatever. But there is a point where you feel, okay, I feel unique, I feel whatever, awesome. And I see you have another question. What tips do you have for those
And
who are just starting?
let me, Janis,
Yeah.
add something to this because it's great what you said, and I will double down on the inspiration thing. I get inspired every day from what you do, from what Hannah do. That I have a message there from PJ, from Nicola, from Michael, from a lot of amazing people. And this is also the beauty of that. You iterate and you take something that someone else said, you gave it your own idea, and of course it look similar sometimes, but it's your interpretation of that. And you have, if you feel okay with that because you added your part, that's perfect. And I would also add to reach out to the person to say, hey, I got inspired by this, and I love when someone happened, and sometimes I do it. And sometimes someone else said, oh, I'm inspired by this. And this is a pleasure because it means that what you did had some meaning, had an impact, and you inspired someone to take some action, which is a privilege first. And then what also happens is that it back also inspires me again. So the inspiration inspires me, and it's a cycle. And with this, we also have a relationship with the person. So I would say, of course, the imitate and innovate is brilliant, and the more the better if you feel that this is authentic to you.
Yeah, I know it's like it's an interesting conversation because of course there are some who like heavily copy and stuff and don't like credit, or just, the most awful thing is where just people like screenshot your thing, cut out your captions, and just try to go viral. That's super shady or whatever, but it will happen. It's part of playing the online game. It's just what it is. But it's a waste of time if you if you try to do it like that. That's definitely a waste of time. And I see Bogdan asks another question: what tips do you have for those who are just starting out to experiment with expressing ideas visually? I added a comment that I'll drop some threads. I'll have, if you go to my X profile, and there is highlight section with a couple of old threads, but where I basically shared a bit of my process, which you can check out. And additionally to that, I would say, that is more like about like the process and how I compromise. Of course, it has evolved and there is more to this, etc. But another thing I would say, like, I for example use Figma, free version of Figma. In YouTube, if you go and watch a Figma basic tutorial like in 50-20 minutes or whatever, spend maybe an hour just watching some tutorials and try to recreate some visuals, try to recreate maybe them and add your own twist. Keep it simple. Don't add like quirky lines or whatever. Keep it like super sharp squares, create some funnels through like bar charts or whatever. There's a lot of simple visuals we and Roberto and other visual artists share here, and just try to do that, and you will definitely come up with something rather quickly. I would say in a day you can come up with several visuals, even if you're at zero skill set. Go to YouTube, watch some tutorials, and just get started. Be inspired and see where it leads. That would be my simple tip. But yeah, I will drop a link to a couple of threads that could be
and
helpful.
Also to the course, which I would definitely recommend, not only for the quality of what you say, which is absolutely true, but also for the community, which is one of the parts that we touched in the conversation. Because when you interact with people doing the same, you just, as you said in the beginning, remember there's someone who's a little further than you, and then you move together and you iterate and you see how they're doing, and then it's a way to progress more quickly than on your own.
Definitely. Thank you for the plug. Yeah, I would say, the community is pretty calm right now. It's not super active as it was before when we started, but I have some ideas how to spice it up. So probably that will take place. But I think one of the most important things which you get from the community is like have this option to submit visuals, whatever you create, submit it for feedback, and I'll do like a Loom sessions where I give you tailored feedback. I think this is great because of this and that. I think this is maybe bad because of this and that. It depends on your goals, etc. And at least a lot of students have reported that as a very useful feature, which is the reason why I created it there.
Absolutely. I'm one of those. I love the feedback session. And I have a question, Janis. I'm curious. What did you learn most doing this feedback session? Because you did like 38 or more. It was 10 of hours of feedback. I don't have the exact
There's a
number.
lot. It's always, I think it's over 20 hours now for sure.
20 hours of feedback. Wow.
But that's over like 2 years or whatever. But yeah, if you can and want, feel free, welcome to join. It's a great place. But definitely, I know there are some people who can't afford it or whatever. Definitely don't put you in this state of mind. Oh, I need this, whatever, to create. Definitely you don't. I'll share some helpful threads. As I said, go to YouTube, watch Figma, be resourceful. This stuff is not that hard. You can figure it out.
Absolutely.
You can figure this stuff out on your own as well.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see if we have some more questions. We could go on for hours, as you can imagine, but I think at the same time it's 4 p.m. So no, it looks like we don't have any more answers.
It was a great conversation. Yeah, cool. A lot of people tune in from all over the world. I saw like Mexico, Finland, India, Morocco. It's crazy. Wow, awesome.
Thank you for listening, for investing this part of your day. I hope it was useful and fun. To me, it was super fun to get to talk again to you, Janis, and to have the conversation and to have fun. Yeah,
absolutely. I did enjoy as well. And thank you everybody who tuned in. If you have any questions or whatever, you can hit me up, and I'm sure Roberto will answer as well. You can hit me up, him up, and we are trying to be good citizens of the internet.
Yeah, what you said, a decent human being. I love that.
Yeah, because but it is the case. Like sometimes people are super decent when you meet them in real life, and everybody goes online and be an asshole. What's wrong with that? It's just it's people.
Yeah, I have to end with the humor. I have the same with the car. I don't know what happens to people. To some people, when you jump into the car, you transform into a devil. And then you get out and you're a very decent, friendly, kind person, but then you drive and you say, wow.
It's I don't know. It's human nature, but yeah, let's try to be mindful of it. It's
okay. So thank you to everyone, and thank you, Janis. Talk soon.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.